Boom, boom. I had to push off. I had to push off the unmute button. Oh, hang on. I gotta move to the thing. There we go. The screams of penile anguish is our life motto.
Bruh.
The
Yo, you
episode
got
is
69 subscribers? That's kind
yeah.
of pog.
I'm not allowed to have anybody else subscribe anymore.
Yeah. Private the whole channel.
I have made it to the mountaintop. Anyways, what's up, everybody? What is this, third episode? We were just talking about this. Third episode of the podcast. Liz isn't here, so we're probably just going to ramble about RPGs. Starting with
No girls allowed.
no girls, ever. Even though
Yep.
she's
Get out of
one
here,
of
baby.
even though she's, let's not get crazy here. Anyways, so we're gonna talk about Vimeo games, preferably of the RPG variety. So we're gonna start out with RPGs that we've been playing recently. I have been playing Ni no Kuni 2, and it is the game of all time.
Yep.
I think RPGs have done a good thing, and I still kind of miss turn-based RPGs, but I also kind of don't. One thing I don't miss is random enemy encounters because that shit is awful.
Oh
But
yeah, the Ni no Kuni 2 does have like the enemies running around before
yeah,
you fight,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Chris Tales has sunk into. Chris Tales does random enemy encounters, but they're not like all of the time. It's more so like after you take a certain amount of steps or at a lot of times. It's not like all of the time, which is really fantastic because it makes me not want to die whenever. Because in old
Yeah.
ones, you take like sometimes you could take like 2 steps and get into another encounter, and it just drives you up the fucking wall. Uh, Take for example when I played Final Fantasy IV on stream, I lost my mind because all of the random enemy encounters made me want to die.
I do feel like overworld enemies triggering encounters instead of random encounters are like probably one of the easiest things you can do to make your game more enjoyable.
Yeah. It's also in Ni no Kuni specifically, the enemies in the dungeons are in bundles, and you just kind of attack one, and then the battle starts. And when the battle ends, you just kind of collect your loot and go on, which is what I like most about the battle system in that game. Is where like battles are usually really quick. Like even playing
Oh,
on hard
that's so
mode,
nice.
the enemies aren't super strong, so you just kind of use your supers, and they all die immediately, and there's not really a reason to not fight enemies, because like you won't get annoyed fighting enemies. The battles are usually never really boring, and the characters play differently enough to where if you ever get bored playing one character, you can just be like, I'm just gonna play this character for this dungeon, and you won't really get bored, which is really nice for some
Yeah,
specific story battles.
with Tales of Arise, which we've both been playing,
Yeah,
like the health pools in that game are so fucking astronomical.
yeah, and
Uh,
you don't do enough damage to make the health pools feel warranted.
and then you die in 2 hits.
Yeah, especially on. I am not ashamed to admit that I lowered the difficulty in towards like maybe like 3/4 of the way through the game to like the story difficulty, because I was like, I can't be bothered to do this. The fights take so fucking long in higher difficulties because of
Yeah.
the bloated health pools, and also they basically just one shot you, and I'm like, this isn't fun. This is not fun game design. However,
Even on story mode, like
yeah,
battles start to take minutes.
yeah.
Like each individual fight is like 2 minutes, and you're dealing with like trash mobs, and it just gets tiring. There was one point in Tales of Arise where like I was just fleeing from every fight because I didn't want to bother playing the video game.
Yeah, I didn't want to play the game that much anymore. I got the
Yeah.
platinum on story mode because I was like, I can't be bothered to like try with this game anymore.
It's good that the game didn't bar any trophies
Yeah,
behind difficulty, because
yeah,
I
or
think
like
other Tales games do give you achievements for like beating certain bosses on hard mode or whatever.
Yeah, getting the platinum for Crisis Core, you have to beat the game on hard, which isn't bad because I've already played the game before, so I know like all of the busted shit. But it's just more of like the biggest thing that saps you in Crisis Core is the 300 missions you have to do, and a lot of them are barred.
300?
Yeah, there's 300 missions.
Bruh.
They're all like basically mini dungeons. Most of them aren't even really worth it, but if you know what to do, you can kind of like get stuff. The game is really fun to break, basically. It's really fun to just see how insanely overpowered you can become as fast as possible.
Those
So,
are definitely the best RPGs, I
yeah.
feel like. Like games that are too balanced, you always feel kind of betrayed in a way. I
Hmm.
don't know. Like I really like you played Bravely Default, right?
Yeah.
Like the first one.
Yeah.
I really fucking liked that game because by the end of it, there were so many ways to break it, but
Yeah.
the way that you found, you kind of felt like you were special,
You were,
in
in a
a lot.
way, rewarded for understanding the mechanics and what works with what. And
Right.
in Tales of Arise, it doesn't really do that. I felt as powerful as I did at the beginning of the game as I did at the end of the game.
Yeah. I
There's
mean,
not really much of a
Tales of
difference.
Arise has a bit of change, but it's also incremental.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It's
I
like
definitely
drops in a
feel
bucket.
more powerful because I have more access to like boost attacks,
Yeah.
and with boost attacks you can do combo extensions. But other than that, I feel like yeah, it's kind of just like you have the same move pool. I guess halfway through the game you do get access to like being able to use twice as many arts as before,
Yeah.
but you go from like 6 to 12 arts, and then that's all of the progression for the whole game.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, there's very little gameplay variety, which I think is inherently a hard thing to do with
uh,
RPGs as a genre because they're so long.
yeah,
You
it's
kind
very
of
hard to
gotta
keep. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah, you gotta keep people interested for
Invested
70
in the
hours.
battles. Yeah, in the battle system. I looked it up. Nino Kuni, from what I've read, is 9 chapters, and I'm already in chapter 6, and I'm only like 20 hours into the game, which makes it feel like it's going to be a shorter game, unless the chapters just get absurdly long. We talked about it, I think yesterday or the day before that, when I was talking about Nino Kuni a bit, and it sinks into you're just kind of doing shit. Like they're like, hey, here's all this stuff that you should do until the plot feels like progressing, and you're like, okay. And I don't know if I'm gonna platinum it just because there's a lot of stuff to do, and there's just a bunch of extra shit that I would have to do that I don't feel like doing. If I could do most
Yeah.
of it towards the end of the game, then maybe, or
It's the
maybe I'll go
problem
back
that
and do
like
it.
none of it feels important.
Uh
Is
huh.
there like no reward or anything?
Well, it has one of my favorite parts of the game is the you have sort of like a castle builder like mobile game kind of thing for your kingdom, and
Yeah.
understanding how that works is probably the biggest part of the game to make your characters just really really good out in battle and outside of battle.
Okay.
So basically, leveling, like for example, I ended up upgrading a lot of the stuff uh for battle oriented stuff. I ended up leveling up that and like armor and weapons to make me function outside of battle easier. And I level up facilities that automatically gather materials for you because then I don't have to worry about gathering them while I'm doing the story, and I just kind of get them naturally. I don't have to really worry about that. There's a lot of micromanaging to it though, like assigning everybody blah 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 blah, and it has like a pseudo like currency build up where it's like, hey, if you play for like an hour, your gelder, which is like your money, will be fully stacked in the kingdom, and it's not the money that you get to the currency that you get to upgrade your kingdom is not the same as your normal currency. So you don't. So you kind of have to wait.
Interesting.
And I mean,
It
it's
sounds
cool.
almost like the the money making Yakuza mini games.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely the highlight of the game. It's sort of like okay, so I'd assume anybody who has played Cult of the Lamb, it's kind of like that, where like you swap from like dungeon and fighting, blah 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 blah, and then you go back to your city where you have to kind of like micromanage and like take care of everything, and then you go back out in battle, you know. And it's great. It's really fun. The combat isn't boring. The story's kinda which bounces back to which brings me to my next topic is story, and how much story will definitively make or break an RPG. Because I think we talked about it very briefly last episode, where we talked about you can, for me specifically, you can have a bad story and good characters, or good characters and a bad story. If I'm not, I personally think, actually I don't know how I feel about it, because I'd rather have better characters, because at least characters going through arcs is cool, but 9 times out of 10, sometimes it just kind of stays the same.
If I have a good story about bad characters, I don't know. I still end up dreading playing the game.
Uh, Not to bring it back up again, but Tales of Arise suffers from that. A lot of the characters don't really change a whole lot, or they're so like adamant on their one specific thing that you're just kind of like, I don't like you being around sometimes. Uh,
Yeah, in Tales of
Shion,
Arise, the characters definitely they take a while to ramp up.
yeah,
You got to get like 40 hours into the video game.
literally like the second half of the game.
Yeah.
That's a lot shorter than the first half, but also a lot more enjoyable, in my opinion.
Yeah. It
Minus
is
the ending.
definitely more like the stakes are higher, I guess.
Yeah, it just
A
went
lot of the
from
time in in RPG stories, like from the very beginning, you're
yeah,
I guess saving the planet or whatever. Um, but then I don't know. In Tales of Arise, there's a plot twist at
yeah,
the midpoint, and I guess it's kind of major spoilers, but no one fucking plays Tales games, so here's your warning. There's a plot twist, and you kind of feel like everything you did for the past 40 hours didn't fucking matter.
yeah,
Um, which sort of makes you feel betrayed, but
yeah.
you know, it's only like you can only get better from there, I guess. So I kept playing the game.
I'm going to possibly. I'm going to try my best to word this as best as possible. Slight
You can spoil the
possible.
end. I don't
No, I
care.
was going to say
I'm like
possible
right before
spoilers.
the final boss.
Possible spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm going to try my best to maneuver
Oh,
around it without talking about spoilers. And the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 perfectly encapsulates how I feel. At least it's what I wanted from the game. I didn't. It was a bittersweet ending. I'm not gonna go into specifics about what happens. That and the final boss is fucking great. Uh, and all of the characters in
Miyoko
Xenoblade
Park's
Chronicles
moment.
3, he becomes Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is an okay game but when the game picks up, it becomes amazing to me personally. Uh,
Mm,
I mean, I understand you had kind of a tainted experience because they don't fucking explain game mechanics to you, and that's also
yeah.
another big thing that I dislike about RPGs is how often they don't explain core mechanics to you. Like we don't how much did you really know about Tales of Arise? You know, like they don't explain core mechanics to you. I think for at least in my opinion, I think some of it was probably like they were probably expecting you to coast off of playing the other Tales games, but I didn't. Like I just didn't understand half of the shit that was happening.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, I'm not a great person to ask because I've played almost every Tales game
Yeah.
before playing Arise. Like, what specifically did you feel was confusing?
I was genuinely I thought like at least for specific like progression and how underpowered I felt most of the time. I think I asked you it before and I was like, are you normally like this underpowered throughout the entire Tales games, or
Oh,
is this
yeah,
just
just the
like
fucking health bars.
yeah, is this just like an
Yeah,
Arise thing or
that is an Arise thing. Yeah,
okay.
that's not. Well, actually, I guess that's just newer Tales games like Zestiria, Berseria, and Arise. They all kind of have that health pool problem.
Yeah.
In other Tales games, it kind of gets to that point, but other Tales games are more. It's hard to explain, but they're more of like the challenge is about endurance over like just raw technical skill.
Yeah.
So you're going through a dungeon, and like instead of having CP, the like cure points,
Mm-hmm.
every individual character has their own mana pool, like a normal RPG. So
Which would
like
make more sense.
you have to kind of limit the amount of arts that you're using, and you have to play strategically around like which arts are better to use,
Yeah.
because arts cost mana, like all of them. Um, and you kind of have to like prioritize your healer's mana pool, and you have
Yeah.
a limited number of items.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of challenge, but because of that, the shit enemies don't have nearly as high health pools. I feel like part of the design change for Zestiria, Berseria, and Arise is that they took away TP, which is like the mana point system,
Mm-hmm.
and in doing that, they kind of like necessitated blowing up health pools because they were able to make every fight a challenge.
Yeah. I never.
Uh,
There was never a point in the rise where I felt like I wasn't being cheated. Honestly. Uh.
Damn.
I mean, there were points that's an extreme, but there were, especially towards the end of the game, where enemies just kind of stagger lock you and you just kind of get fucked, and there's not a whole lot you can do. Like for example, watching you fight the the
Oh, the
like
slime
slime
boss.
boss, yeah, where
Yeah.
like 10 different things are spawning and you're just getting nuked anytime you ever set foot anywhere.
Yeah, and
And
all of the little minions that spawn during a boss fight literally take like 90 seconds to kill if you
yeah,
focus them down.
yeah,
So at that point, you just start ignoring them, but they all cast spells that do AoE. So you're like sitting there playing Final Fantasy 14 raids, trying to
yeah.
dodge all of the DDR shit on the ground.
It's not. It's not. The game works well when it's a one-on-one boss. Like when you fought the second phase of that boss and it was just him. It's
Right.
fine. But the
Yeah, the
game,
game's much more enjoyable when you have fewer enemies.
yeah, especially because 9 times out of 10, like spell enemies aren't as bad because like a thing will pop up in the corner that like off screen, like where they're standing, that'll tell you where they're casting. But 9 times out of 10, a melee enemy will just poof on your screen, half of your health, and then the boss will hit you, and then you'll die. And you'll be like, "Yay, I love this game. This game is so fun." Uh, but on a more lighter note, I think we need a more return to form of turn-based RPGs. I really like turn-based. Obviously, I played a lot of Final Fantasy, and there is there's a lot of games that I feel like I want to say are improved by it, but I think the sort of RTS kind of RPG games are really fun. The most like for example, like I really like some people didn't like it for some reason. I really liked Final Fantasy 15's battle system because it's simple and it's easy to understand and you can just kind of play the game if that makes sense. There's not too like you basically have everything you need like everything that you could do you have at the start of the game, which I think is both cool and also some games. Well, I guess you can make the argument in terms of Final Fantasy 15, where you're going to be playing like a 60 to 70 hour game. You kind of want different stuff to do, but like at the, I'm also talking. To be fair, a lot of the updates they changed a lot of shit in the updates of 15 because the game was barely a game when it was released. Like you could only play as Noctis. There wasn't a whole lot of playstyles, but now that like Royal Edition and updates have been out, you can play as all the other three boy band characters. So
Yeah, I don't think I ever played it like post the DLC stuff. But I personally really disliked Final Fantasy 15.
did you?
Kind of what either Sully or Avery is saying, where like games are trying to be open world. Um, I just felt like that game was so disjointed. Like there was so much fucking time
Yeah,
between story beats and battles. And like maybe that improved, but I honestly couldn't get through the first 5 hours of the game. And I tried to play the game like 3 times. and it was just so fucking boring to me every time, and I didn't see it improving because so much of it was like sitting in the car, which is weird because I love Wind Waker, which is essentially the same thing, but I just couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Could not stand Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah. I played it one. I played through it twice. I played it when I think when it first came out, and I was also in a bad spot. That's a topic for blah 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 blah. But so I didn't enjoy it as much. I was just like, this game sucks. And then I played it again recently to platinum it, and I was like, huh. I enjoyed it more than I did the first time, but there were definitely points in time where it wasn't as fun. Like, oh my god, the biggest complaint that everybody has about the game is I think the game is like 13 chapters, and after chapter like 8, the game is just a straight shot to the end. It's super linear. There's no room for like grinding or nothing. So once you commit, you fucking commit, and that's it. Uh, I mean, there's a spoilers, whatever the fuck. It's been like 10 fucking years. There's a time skip at the end of Final Fantasy 15, and
What
there's
the
not.
hell?
Yeah, there's a time skip, and there's really no reason for it. There's legitimately no reason for the time skip. It's probably put in there just because Noctis gets captured and they need a reason to bring him back for some fucking reason. And I'm just like, okay, but like time skip is cool and all, but like we didn't really need this. Um, like I said, it's basically just a straight shot to the end. To be fair, at save points you can go back to the point where the game isn't linear, but the going back to the open world and knowing and doing shit is it will I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend just dashing through to the end because then at least you can feel feelings and cry because the ending is actually kind of sad, but whatever. But when a game becomes that linear, it's not fun, especially in a once open world game.
Hmm. I don't know. I like linear games.
The story of 15 is also not very great.
Well, I guess it sounds like I'm not missing much, to be
You
honest.
if you ever thought to yourself, I want to play this game, but obviously you tried it 3 times, so it's not really worth it. Unless you're like hardcore, like I want to play this game, then you could just skip it. I could literally spoil the entire game for
Yeah.
you, and I could
What
give you
about
like.
you can give me?
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna let you say
I
something.
was gonna say, what about Final Fantasy VII remake? Like that game's linear as shit,
Final Fantasy,
but that game's way better.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
way better.
I think it's just because like the jump to just feel like I think it's because you're so used to like the open world and like you're having fun, in quotations, fun is subjective. Uh, so
So
you
you
know
don't like the transition from open world to linear, but you're
it's
okay if the
it's
game's linear from the beginning.
it's just it's like and like it's so obvious that they're just trying to like rush to the end. If that makes sense. Where they're just like,
Mm,
okay, you've had like 8 9 chapters for fun. Now it's time for us to actually do story shit, and you're like, okay. It's kind of like
okay.
it's kind of like a Rise when you go to that
It
one
just feels
area where
rushed.
yeah, it's just like the end of
Yeah.
Arise, where like you spent all this time doing this, not really doing anything, and then like literally like when there's 4 or 5 hours left in the game, they're like, here's all the plot that we probably should have told you before, and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
albeit
the end of Arise definitely feels rushed.
yeah, it's
It's very typical of that series to have like a world altering plot twist,
yeah,
but it's usually much earlier in the game, and I feel like it's better served being earlier in the game.
yeah, because the game like trickles down story to you in such a like bad way. I'm talking about Arise, not Final Fantasy 15, by the way. It just
Yeah.
it just trickles you story. It's like droplets in a bucket, and then once the bucket's like almost full, they knock it over, and then they're like, "No, we're gonna tell you the story when we wanted to tell you the story." And you're like, I mean, okay, I guess, Like,
You got a story IV for the first 40 hours, and then they give
yeah,
up and dump the bag on you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. uh, I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake is really linear, but it's also following. I make the argument that it's also following the most linear section of Final Fantasy VII. So it's kind of hard to like make it feel like a big open thing where like the beginning of Final Fantasy VII that they're taking it off of is really linear as well.
Do
Because
you think part 2 is going to open up more?
I think part two is going to be pseudo open world, possibly. Some people think it's
Okay.
going to be like a massive open world thing. I don't think so. I think we're going to get like pseudo open world. Like you could still visit cities and blah 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 and side quests
It's
and
going
all
to
that
be
shit.
like the end game of 13.
Yeah. Which I wouldn't be against because like I want it. And on top of that, like there's a lot of stuff that happens at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake that I'm not gonna spoil. That changes the trajectory of how a lot of people feel about the game.
Right.
So it's kind of like okay, like it's going in an interesting direction. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be neat. And also on the topic of Final Fantasy VII Remake, oh my god, we need to talk about the fucking battle system and how, for me specifically, active time battles are both a blessing and a fucking curse. Like, uh,
I'm I'm not a huge fan
of ATB.
of the shift from turn-based to the action combat.
I have always been an advocate for turn-based because
Yeah.
one, I grew up just playing a lot of old school RPGs, so turn-based was my shit. And ATB is both a blessing and also like the most annoying thing ever because like we have in Final Fantasy VII Remake, a monster will be attacking your partner. They don't. It's different when it's ATB and you have AI party members that are fucking stupid. They've never done
Yeah.
AI partners correctly. But like they get out of the way of the big shit, but like they just stand there and get sliced and diced up, and then you have to heal them, and then the person switches to you while you're trying to heal them, and then they die, and then you get fucking murdered, and you're like, like it's really frustrating dealing with AI controlled partners in RPGs, which is why another reason I like turn based is because I control the entire party. If they do dumb shit, that's my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Well, and I also feel like when I sit down and play a JRPG, like I'm not playing video games in a vacuum. Like I have
Yeah.
a Steam library with 400 games in it. I could play an action game if I wanted to be
Play an
stressed the
action.
fuck
If I
out. But
wanted to play an action
sometimes,
game,
yeah, sometimes I just want to sit down and like not have to have all of my decisions be urgent.
yeah,
You know, I like just sitting there and thinking about it, or just not having to care about when I have to press the button next. It's nice just to relax and play an RPG. But
yeah.
the
Sometimes
active battle
ATB
stuff kind of
it
takes that
becomes a
away.
babysitter. It becomes a babysitting simulator at a point. Like
Yeah.
I think the reason why we keep bringing up Tales of Arise so much is one because we both played it, and two we both played it very recently. It
Yeah.
the characters
Well, it also
characters
like kind of exemplifies a lot of the problems I have with
yeah,
the
yeah.
genre's development.
Characters in Tales of Arise just get fucking obliterated because they don't know how to dodge. They just stand there and get
They
their
do just
shit kicked
stand
in.
there and eat shit
Yeah,
constantly. It's
they
pretty
just
funny.
they just get their shit kicked in. It's funny until you're like, oh my god, you're fucking dead again. Great, like you know.
It's been a
Uh,
lot better since I switched to story mode. I did it later than you did. I did it
yeah,
in like the last 3 hours of the game.
yeah. I did it. I did it. Um, I think after the fire boss. After that
Yeah,
boss. I was like, if the bosses are like this for the rest of the game, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not. I can't be fucking bothered to do this. I'm not doing this. It's not worth my
yeah.
sanity.
But
Like
I don't know. Towards the end of the game, my characters have not been dying as much.
yeah,
Like my healers have been able to keep up. But it was definitely a huge problem in the first 30 hours when I was playing on normal.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's so many things that I mean I like the second half of Tales of Arise, and as much as we shit on them, I enjoyed the characters have a lot of small moments outside of the story that are actually really nice, like the skits where they talk about just whatever they're thinking about, or like if you cook their favorite food, the character shows more personality and how much they like that food. Like there's a lot of outside of the game moments that make me laugh until everybody
yeah,
starts sinking into like anime tropes, where Law is like the haha I'm zany and quirky and I like to punch stuff, and Renwell's like I'm gonna make fun of you because I'm the quirky mage, and you're like okay,
Law's a himbo and
yeah,
Rinwell's an asshole. Yeah, it's kind of
and Alfin's so
it just
altruistic,
gets
like, and Shion's just a bitch until like the last 20 minutes of the game.
yeah. That was kind of why I fell in love with the Tales series initially, is because there those games give the characters so much room to express themselves,
Yeah,
but
the skits are so great.
you really need to have good characters for that to matter.
Yeah,
And I think Arise kind of dropped the ball on that one. That's why I always suggest Tales of Vesperia, because like that game's story is pretty meh, but all of the characters in that game, save like two of them, are really engaging, and they're like genuinely people you want to learn more about. Like in Tales of Arise, I would skip like 80% of the skits.
yeah,
In Tales of Vesperia, I am always fucking excited for the next skit. Every time. I'll watch the whole thing through. Um, so yeah, the like systems put in place kind of rely on you caring
yeah.
in those games.
Well, my question to you is do you at least I don't think I've seen one. Do you think they could do open world turn based combat correctly? Like do you think they could mingle turn based and open world shit well?
I mean, I don't see why not. Like old RPGs are that,
Yeah.
you know. Like I was playing Final Fantasy IX, and that game has a lot of fucking problems, but also it's pretty decent.
I'm curious as to know what your problems with Final Fantasy 9, because I really like Final Fantasy 9. I also haven't like beaten the game since I was a teenager, so that also might play a part in it.
The game's really slow. Like the
Yeah.
battle system is really slow. Is my main issue.
I like how simple
And
the battle system is. It's more of like a back to basics kind of. You don't have like I mean you have one of my biggest things that I have a problem with that game is the trance system, where it's automatically triggered and 9 times out of 10 it's wasted on some low life fucking enemy and it's
oh
really
yeah,
frustrating.
there's no way to utilize trance.
Yeah,
I just ignore it as a mechanic, which is
yeah,
fine. Like I don't care too much. I don't know that game. So first of all, like it has the ATB system, so I feel less relaxed playing it. But also the animations take so fucking long
yeah.
that like
That's just a
I plan out 3 turns as Vivi casts a single spell.
yeah,
And a lot of the time I'm either like, okay, well I'd like to sit down and think, but my ATB gauges are up, or I'm like, oh my fucking god, just play out the turns I've planned.
yeah.
So there's always a pacing issue in either direction with that game. Uh, you know what the perfect RPGs are, in my opinion?
I would love to know.
It was mentioned in the chat before. Fucking the first two Paper Mario games.
Yes, they're so good.
They're short. They let you think, but they still have timed elements.
Yeah,
I feel like the like that and the Mario RPG games, like
yes.
they got
Like
RPGs,
Superstar Saga and stuff.
yeah, down to a fucking science,
The game
and then they
because
stopped making them.
not only that they keep you invested in there's an active reason to pay attention to battles without you won't get immediately one shot like you would in like an RTS game or like really fast paced like you need to be on your toes at all times battles. Like there's still room for error. The bosses don't punish you that hard, so you kind of have a chance to learn the battles and the game, and That and like the stories of those games are just really really good. Like both
Yeah.
Paper Mario's, the Mario and Luigi game, Super Mario RPG has a really good story too. I don't
The
know
thing
what.
about those games is they're short. Uh, you're always doing something
Yeah,
that matters. You never grind, and the numbers are small.
yeah,
And I think that's like numbers being small is it might be the best thing you can do for your RPG system.
yeah.
Like period. Cuz in that game when you get a new pair of boots and you do an extra damage, you feel like a fucking god.
Yeah.
It's insane how like 1 point of damage is the difference between fights being incredibly challenging and fights being a joke.
Well,
So every time you get something new, it feels like it matters.
and it also has like a pseudo Metroidvania kind of thing to it too, where you unlock like the new hammer, and you just start thinking of like all the things that were in the game before, and you're like, oh my god, this world opens up even more, and shortcuts and more abilities, and like there's so many things that open up to you when you get new abilities, and also like new partners too, and also the Paper Mario does the battle system fucking perfectly, in my opinion. It's every single character plays a part. There's some characters are better than others. Obviously, that's just kind of how it goes. But every single character, you never are like, oh my god, like this character's so fucking useless. Like every character has like three abilities that every single one serves a purpose, and also it's like you said, like the numbers are really low, so you don't have to experiment with the character for hours on end because battles are so fast. You just kind of like, hey, when something clicks in that game, you're like, this could fuck a boss up, especially in multiple playthroughs.
Yeah, everything is so simple that you like immediately understand its use, but the number of tools you have available to you by even like the middle of the game is so diverse that you feel like a tactician
Yeah,
as you're playing through the game.
and also
And
like
there's
all
enough
of the
customization with badges and stuff like that that you can like kind of make your own build and feel like you're making the playthrough your own.
yeah, and also it's like all of like the command stuff that you can do to do more damage and all. It keeps you invested in battles to the point where the battles are fun throughout the entire game because they keep you invested and like make sure you pay attention and you don't have to like watch out for your party members like dying or getting smoked immediately because you looked away from the screen for 5 seconds.
And because you're the one doing the
Controlling
action
it.
commands for your
Yeah.
party members. Yeah. Well, and also like I don't know, the way the battle systems work in those games, like it matters so much that enemies' attacks have different timings and different strategies for avoidance. So it makes the enemy variety so much more appreciated. Like not to go back to Tales of Arise, but we both played it. There are maybe like 6 enemy types in that game, and they're recolored over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And the game just feels the same constantly. But in the Paper Mario games, every level like has a new thing going for it. And there are some enemies that are reused throughout the whole game and throughout the series, but like it's Mario, so you expect that. Like, yeah, there's a Koopa in every level. Why the fuck wouldn't there be? It's Mario. It all just kind of makes sense and it all just
Yeah.
works.
Another game that I really love, and I'm pretty sure most people who have played it will love it. Chrono Trigger is one of the prime examples of just like a platinum star RPG. The game is short. You can beat it in like you can if you know what you're doing, you can beat it in about 20 hours.
Yep.
It's a really, really short game. The battle system is through and throughout, and also it's always because not to mention, if you don't know how the RPG battle system, the battle system in Chrono Trigger works, is characters get these things called skills or techs, and you can, as you unlock more for your party members, you can, if two characters both have their turns, or towards the end of the game, three characters, they can combine both of their turns to do like one big move, and it's such a fun way to keep you invested in the battles because you go throughout the game when you get close to getting a new tech skill, you're like, I want to see what this does. I want to see what I can make people do now. It's like it's such a fun way to keep you invested in the battles, and also the story's fucking phenomenal. The characters are great. Everything about Chrono Trigger is like top notch. So it's such a fun battle system, and it's usually why I will sing the praises of Chrono Trigger all day and night. But
you also don't have to grind in that game.
yeah, you don't.
You can just play the game.
Most
and
of the
you're
bosses,
the right level.
Most of the bosses that make you feel like you're supposed to lose, 9 times out of 10, very obviously scripted. So, and there's only like 2 of them in the game, and even then, they one of the best parts is New Game Plus. You can beat a boss, and that you technically probably weren't supposed to beat, and you get a secret ending. And there's like 20 fucking endings, and they all have something to do with maybe at what point in time of the game you beat Lavos, or like if you do something you weren't supposed to do and you die. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of good endings in the game.
Yeah, and your decisions matter.
Yeah.
It's so often in an RPG where it's like, oh, someone's talking to you and you say yes, no, and then like maybe that choice affects you for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of whatever. And by the point you realize that all of the choices are like that, it's like, yeah, what the fuck ever. Like, I'll just mash A, yes or no. It's all the outcomes are going to be the same, so whatever. Yeah. But in a game like Chrono Trigger that does that, it makes you feel invested when decisions are presented to you.
Another game that does it well is it's more so of an active time battle system. It basically, like we talked about, it's Star Ocean. Star Ocean, you can have up to 8 people in a party, and there's usually like 10 to 12 like recruitable characters. So you can use one team throughout the game, and you can have an entirely different playthrough the next playthrough. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like you can have completely different teams. You can mix and match. It encourages you for like understanding not only the battle system but how well characters work together. And like mages are kind of because they stand in the back and they cast spells, and spells like it's not like, for example, like Tails, where like if you cast a spell in Tails, not in Tails, in Star Ocean, game pauses and then they do like the 10-second animation and then the fight continues. And it's usually why people. It's really
old Tails games that did happen with higher level spells.
Yeah.
So I think it happens in Symphonia. So be wary of that.
Okay.
It is going to start happening.
Which I'm okay with. 10 seconds is excessive. It's usually maybe like 2 or 3, unless it's like a spell. So like
but it feels like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like when it's the 8th time you see it in a fight, you're like, oh my fucking god.
10 seconds add up when they're constantly casting spells behind you, so it's constantly pausing the battle.
You get your party of 8 mages, and it's just it's become turn-based again. Congratulations.
Yeah. Like I think we talked about it before. I would highly recommend Star Ocean. First, you could just get it on emulator. We're not supposed to talk about those. You get Star Ocean and Second Evolution. Second Evolution and First Departure are remakes of the first and second Star Ocean, and they're really good.
I have one of those on the Switch.
That would probably be First Departure because they remade it. It's called like First Departure R or some shit. I want to get it at some point, and if I were to get it, I'd probably get it on PlayStation. I'd get it on PlayStation to most likely platinum it. On the topic of trophies, platinuming RPGs is one of the most stressful yet fun things ever.
I am not an achievement hunter in any sense of the word. So I don't like I never go into a game thinking about trophies really.
I do it like maybe towards like the halfway point. I like check and see. I'm like, okay, like mine is like it's a game that like for example like I had the platinum Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. It's one of my favorite games on the PSP. I had to. I love it. I love the story. I love the characters.
Had to do it to him.
I had to do it to them. Final Fantasy 15 was out of spite. I wish I was kidding. The whole reason why I platinum Final Fantasy 15 is because my friend told me when I said that I might, they said that I couldn't do it, so I did it out of spite. Uh, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I did it just because I wanted to spend more time with Final Fantasy VII Remake because I really loved the game. I had to be look. Ghost of Tsushima was also one that I really wanted to platinum.
I still got that game in the shrink wrap. I need to play that.
It's really good. I love I love Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima solves a lot of problems that I have with open world games, such as for example, you open the map once, you set a location, and if you swipe, I think left on like the trackpad, a gust of wind blows telling you which way to go. So you don't have to bring up the menu again to like check and see which way you're going and which route you're taking. It's just a constant trek to there. Like it's fucking great. It's amazing.
That's kind of cool, and
Yeah.
it's not like the super lame like line on the ground,
Yeah,
like a la Xenoblade 3.
yeah. It's really good. Um, yeah, there's a lot of good games. I'd have to be looking at my list to see what I've platinumed. But even then, there's a lot of games on my shelf even that I want to platinum. And I look usually when I go into a game, I look at the trophies to see what I have to do. And
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, with planning, I can get most of them done really quickly. Like I think the one that took me the most time was probably it might have been Crisis Core, but like 70 hours, which isn't a lot.
yeah, that's an RPG.
Yeah, 70 hours is standard. That's that. Like I said, that's to even get the platinum trophy, which is really, really, really short.
Yeah, I have never finished a playthrough of Persona 5.
I don't think. I
I've
think.
I've gotten to the end of the game twice. Because when Royal came out, I started playing it again. Uh, and not looking at the trophies, my playthrough was at 70 hours when I stopped playing. So like there are some games that are just fucked up
Yeah.
lengths.
Let's see. I think. Yeah, Persona. Persona's probably gonna be a game that might be the next game that I play. I've been holding it off long enough because I know how fucking long it is, and I don't want to sit here for like
It's
100 plus
it's very
hours.
long.
Because my brother wants to watch me play it, but I'm also of the line. I'm like, dude, I really don't want to sit here and have to wait for you to be ready to play. I just want to play the fucking game. Because it's 100. He thinks it's gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be short. No, it's like 100 plus hours of game.
Yeah.
So if you
No,
think that,
Persona's not messing around.
yeah, no, Persona's a big deal. Uh, so that's one
Also,
of
you're gonna
them.
have to sit there with your brother while you date your teacher in a video game.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of adult things that I don't want to sit in the room with my brother with. Some of the things I'm gonna do in Persona are gonna be less than immoral. Morality is gonna be questioned at some point. Uh, it's really interesting thinking about like how far RPGs have come from like really turn-based things to like really fast-paced, sometimes unfair games.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know. There's some developers who are like trying to keep the turn-based thing alive. Like I
Yeah,
remember I Am Setsuna came out pretty recently,
I want to play that.
and that was supposed to be inspired by like SNES era RPGs and
I want to
stuff.
play that.
And
I just haven't checked to see how much it is, and I might get it at some point.
yeah, it was like Octopath Traveler and Even Bravely Default,
Oh
like,
shit, I forgot Octopath. Okay, maybe I'll play Octopath next after Ni no Kuni.
damn,
Well, that's that, and because 2 is coming out, so I want to play 2.
right. Have you played Octopath before?
I have played a collective like 10 minutes of it.
Okay, yeah, I played like 3 hours for a night. Um, I don't I don't know.
Oh
That
yeah.
game's kind of cool because it's kind of like the Star Ocean thing where you can like collect a party and
Hmm.
then set out on the adventure. And you can only have like 4 members at a time, so you kind of make your build and then set out from there.
There's a thing
It's really long and
that
drawn out.
happened recently that we have not talked about yet, and that is the Nintendo Direct. Probably,
Okay,
in my opinion, one of the best directs. It was also like they have recently been doing like RPG Paradise. Like they've just been releasing like a bunch of RPGs for the Switch, and I'm fucking here for it
that's
because
true.
my
Etrian Odyssey.
yeah, my Switch is basically a Monster Hunter machine at this point. So if I
Yeah,
anything that gives me more things to play that I enjoy, I am all here for it. Like we got Baten Kaitos, we got Octopath, we got rumors of a Dragon Quest III remaster in the form of Octopath's art style, which is pretty fucking dope.
that's
Uh,
kind of cool.
there are rumors that a Final Fantasy Tactics remake is coming out, which if it is, I'm not gonna have friends for a while. There's I forgot what else was it. Obviously the Etrian Odyssey, which is fucking fantastic. And to all the people in chat, if you haven't played Etrian Odyssey, what the hell are you doing? You should get on that.
Yeah, it's on Switch now. You don't have
Yeah,
an excuse,
yeah, you don't have
except
an
for the
excuse.
fact that the collection of 3 games is $80, which is kind of a ludicrous price to charge. But
Well, each game separately is $40. Like each game is $40. So in theory,
right,
you save
which I
40.
think is overpriced
Yeah,
for I don't know. They're old games,
yeah,
but should definitely like if you haven't played them before, it's probably worth $80 to have
yeah,
the 3 games. But like for someone like me who has,
yeah.
the price seems pretty steep.
I think that's
But
a big
definitely play them,
difference.
and also don't play with auto mapping. Map your own map your own thing. That's
Don't be
like
a don't be a loser.
that's half the pleasure of Etrian Odyssey is making
Don't
the
be a
maps.
loser. Don't be a loser. Mark your own maps. If they add what you can do again, where you share like people's custom maps, that'd be pretty cool. Or like how they're like mapped it out and shit.
Yeah. Oh, were you able to like send those to people?
In 3DS, yeah, you could. I think it was Street Pass. You could like if somebody had the game, it would send you like, hey, this is how they mark their map, and you could use their marked map and shit too to find stuff that you might have missed.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I played Etrian Odyssey games like after Street Pass died. I mean,
yeah,
I guess Street Pass as a functionality never died, but like no one brought their 3DS and used Street Pass
yeah.
anywhere anymore when I played them.
I
That's
remember,
really interesting.
I used to bring mine to school, and I used to get like notifications on Street Pass like every single fucking day.
Yep,
From
same.
like Smash to like Etrian Odyssey because one of my other friends bought it to like Monster Hunter shit. Actually, I don't know Monster Hunter didn't have it. To Kid Icarus Uprising, which is also another great game, by the way. The controls suck ass, but other than that, I like Kid Icarus.
Kid Icarus Uprising was a fucking baller video game.
Yeah,
Did you
that
ever
shit
play
was
the
so.
online,
Yeah, oh my god, it
the
was so
like
fun.
PvP shit? That
It
was
was
so cool.
it was so fun.
They got to bring that game back.
Yeah, they. Oh my god, if they brought it back on the Switch, I would lose my fucking mind. Not
They'd have
only
to
would they be
really
able to,
revamp the controls,
yeah, not
but
only would they be able to revamp the controls, they'd be we'd have full like online functionality. Like it would be so easy to access, and I would already have like a full group of people to play with because all of my friends are willing to play that game again. Uh, I'm curious to like obviously in the direct they announced the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games, and I wonder if they're gonna. One, I want them to add four swords. That would be pretty lit for them to add four swords to the Game Boy Advance thing, and it would be one of the easiest ways for everybody to be able to play that fucking game together. Um, there's a lot of interesting things. They added Golden Sun. Uh, The first one. They're probably gonna add the second one because I'm pretty sure that's also on the Game Boy. And I think the
Golden
third.
Sun is the RPG, not the beat 'em up is Golden Axe,
Yeah,
right?
that's Golden Axe
I
is the
always
beat 'em
mix
up.
them up.
Golden Axe is
Okay,
the beat
okay.
'em up. Golden Sun is the RPG, and Golden Sun and then Golden Sun: The Lost Age are both I think on Game Boy, and then Dark Dawn is on DS. Which, if you're listening, ladies and gentlemen, please bring back Golden Sun.
I never played any of the Golden Sun games.
I like them. If you
Are
can play,
they tactical RPGs or are they like JRPGs?
they're turn based.
Turn-based JRPGs?
Yeah, and it's
Okay, maybe I should
interesting.
give them a shot.
Yeah, there's these things called Jin, and they're basically like your stat things, and like they come with like magic spells, and there's a lot of depth to the combat, and it's really fun, and it's balanced through and through. It's balanced enough. Sometimes it's kind of bullshit, especially like in super bosses, where it's just like, "Hey guys, look at us. We're just gonna one shot you because we're a super boss. That's funny, right?" And you're like, "Not really, but okay." Uh, and there's a lot of good things to love about that I like about Golden Sun. I also haven't. It's also another example of I haven't played it in a while, so I could also be kind of biased. I haven't played it since I was a teenager. A,
Yeah.
lo- I think a lot of old school games. I'm like, yeah, this is great, but it's definitely biased by nostalgia.
And you go back and play and you're like, wow,
This sucks. I hate this. I
I sure
definitely,
was easy to please.
yeah. I mean, I always tell people if they want to get started with RPGs, the best way to do it is the Pixel remasters of Final Fantasy 1 through 6 are on Steam, and they're really cheap, so it's definitely worth it looking into those and playing them. And
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario also. That's also on the the Switch thing if you pay for the online. Thank you, Avery and Sully, for letting me be a part of the family plan so I can play all that. But
Let's go.
yeah, there's a lot of really good RPGs out there. Oh my God, what is it called? Radiant Historia is it's so good. I love Radiant Historia.
I've
Uh,
never even heard of that one.
it was originally on. I know they made a remake of it on the 3DS, and I don't exactly remember what it was on originally, but
Hmm.
it's really good. I think it was PlayStation 1. I'm pretty sure it was PlayStation 1 or 2, or I'm just stupid and it's not even on numbers. It's on Xbox. I was kidding. It's always on Xbox. But yeah, there's a lot of really good RPGs, and a lot of my friends usually go to me about it and ask me like, "What should I play?" And I'm like, "Play this." And then sometimes they're like, "This game sucks," and I'm like, "It's okay to be wrong, but whatever."
What was the most recent instance of someone saying a game sucked?
Oh my God. Uh, I think well, I think it was Final Fantasy 4. Final Fantasy 4 is a bit cliche, but it's also like really fun, and the battle
Is that the
system is really.
one? No, the one with Bart's is 5, right?
That's 5.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I've played 4.
4 is I like 4. It's in
Is
my
4
top three.
jobs?
No,
Or is it just preset
it's like
characters?
it's preset characters and classes,
Okay.
and also depending on what version you play, the characters play different roles and all that jazz. Well, at least Cecil
Hmm.
does, because in okay, so there's 2D and then there's the 3D versions, and in the 3D versions he's more of an actual paladin where he's like a tank and he's defending like all of the time, and then in the 3D in the I'm sorry, let's say 3D version. In the 3D versions he's more of a paladin, and in the 2D versions he's an actual like DPS character. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, so they changed it a little bit. So there's different versions you can play. 5 is also really good. 5 is probably the best example of the class system, besides maybe tactics, in my opinion.
5 is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Five's
It's
class
probably my
system is
second favorite
really
Final
good.
Fantasy game.
Five's class system is really hard to top. It's a very good class system. Uh, three was one of the first examples, minus one, obviously, but one was it's kind of eh. Three, I don't like three. Three kind of sucks in my opinion, but uh, so does two. Four is good. Five is good. Six is my favorite. Seven is
Yeah,
really
6
great.
is the best. That's the only take.
Eight is a video game that's not very good. 9 is to me very good. 10 is good minus the characters. The battle system in 10 is probably one of my favorite battle systems.
The level up system in 10 is very well thought out.
Yes,
I
it's
really
very
enjoy
good.
it.
It's like every character has a. It's kind of like a borderline job class system, where like every character
Yeah.
has a role and they all serve their role really well until the end game where everybody can just kind of be anything. What number are
I
we at?
did not like 12.
12 is a game of all time.
Yeah.
13 is interesting because I wish that they spent more time talking about like the world and making me understand the world because I'm like, on paper you have such a cool idea, but you don't explain it at all. Like
They
you don't
do
know.
explain it. You just have to like fucking study. Like you have to go into the menus every time a new thing comes up and read and then like think back and recontextualize old cutscenes.
Yeah,
Like you are able to understand that game. You just have to try really fucking hard,
I got. It's like a
which should
borderline
never be the
test.
case.
It's like a test, and
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, every cutscene in that game is a pop quiz.
Yeah. It's like, hey, do you know what Lucia are? No. Do you know what a post is? No. Do you know what like all this other shit is? Like, not really. Like, oh well, have fun. And you're like, what?
Why do these guys hate all these foul C things? What's going
What the
on
hell is a
here?
foul C, and why do I hate it?
They look like people. What's wrong with them?
Also,
Yeah.
enjoy your summons that you can only rarely use sometimes, and you're like, what? I never like it when the games do that, where it's like you can only use summon. Like in Final Fantasy 15, it's probably the worst implement of summons I've ever fucking seen in my life. Where they just kind of
I never
appear
got that
sometimes.
far.
They just kind of appear sometimes. Like,
They're just
and
hanging out.
if you lose, yeah, if you lose in a battle, they show up. But sometimes, like at the start of a battle, they just show up, and I'm like, what? I'm not even. Oh, okay, then. Like, you're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. But okay, game, whatever. And like, I think it's basically like a one shot to like anything that they do, which I guess is cool. But other than that, it's just like, dude, this is stupid. You stop it and just like let me just like live my life, bro. And
Nope.
okay, understandable. One thing I
Not
do
allowed
give
to do
Final
it.
Fantasy 15 is the music is very good. I like the music in 15.
I should go back and listen to the soundtrack. I definitely don't like the game, but I give the soundtrack a shot. Is it like orchestral stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing that they
That
did
is
good about.
something I really appreciate about I guess just the game industry is like
Yeah.
it's kind of a medium where people can compose orchestral music and it makes sense.
Same thing about
Like
like
it's
Final Fantasy 7 remake, where like everything is orchestral now, and you're like, this. I didn't know I wanted this, but I'm fucking here for it.
right. Yeah, it's only like video games and movies
Yeah.
where like orchestral stuff is appreciated, and I feel like in movies it's so like I don't know. It's very like
Orchestral hits
cookie
different.
cutter.
It hits different.
Yeah. But I feel like every I feel like every movie soundtrack is kind of the same
Yeah.
for like really popular movies at least. And I could get crucified for that take because I honestly don't watch a lot of movies.
Another thing that they did
But
good,
especially
and
with like Marvel films, it's like
yeah, yeah. One thing that they did good for the Pixar remasters is that everything is orchestral now. Like all of the soundtrack is orchestral.
oh, that's cool.
Square, if you're listening to me, please, for the love of fucking God, put your entire because when you buy the game, you get a soundtrack, and it only has like 6 fucking songs on it. Square, please, for the love of God, put your entire fucking soundtrack. I'll pay extra. I'm a fucking sucker. I'll pay extra. I just.
Just download it on the internet.
I mean, I do that, but like it makes me feel better sometimes.
Yeah.
Is there anything you
It's
wanna? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
it's so weird to me what companies decide to remake and what they don't.
Yeah.
I like we were talking about Tales before. There are some old Tales games that are like impossible to play these
Tears of the
days.
Abyss.
Tales of the Abyss, that's the one I always bring up. But like even the ones before that, like I think it's like well, there's Tales of Destiny. There's the original like 2D Tales games, which I think are kind of ass, but they
Oh yeah,
remade Star
Fa-
Ocean.
Fantasia.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't know. It's so strange to me how this shit can be lost. And like Square does a pretty good job of keeping up their older games, but a lot of RPG series just kind of like they're kind of hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
I was trying to play Suikoden a few months ago, um, and those are kind of tough to get a hold of. I guess you can get them on like the PlayStation Store or
Yeah.
something, but they're never remaking
One
them. They're
thing it
never like
reminds
trying
me
to
of is
revitalize those.
it reminds me of like the NIS games. Like they were so hardcore focused on Disgaea that they just kind of like written off everything. But now everything is like on something. It's like on Switch or PlayStation or Steam, like Makai Kingdom and Soul Nomad and Lupa Seal, and because they have all these games.
East, all the East games.
Yeah, where they like reference games and shit. Because the thing about the NIS games is that most of them are all in this intertwined world. So like everybody shows up in another game, and you're like, who the fuck is this dude? I can't even find the game to play this on. I can't. I don't even. It's like, oh,
The
it's on the PlayStation.
17th game with Etna
Yeah.
in it for some fucking reason. Yeah.
It's like this guy always has like characters from like Lupa Seal and Makai Kingdom and like Soul Nomad and all this shit. And you're like, where the fuck are these people from? I want to play these games, and then they're like, no, fuck you. They're on like PlayStation 1. Go fuck yourself. And you're like, I mean, okay, I guess. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up? Because we have reached an hour.
Uh, if you haven't played Tales of Symphonia before, give it a shot. It's coming out on Switch.
So especially because the remaster is coming out.
Yeah.
If you haven't played
I'm not
Chrono
going to
Trigger,
tell you it's a good game, but I am going to tell you it's a game from my childhood, and you should play it.
a game for we're talking about games from childhoods. Oh Jesus Lord, that's a topic for another day. But yeah, if you haven't played Chrono Trigger, you should do that. Also, Chris Tales is the thing. You should play that as well.
Yeah, play Chrono Trigger first. That's like actually a good game.
Wow.
It's also way shorter. Tales of Symphonia is like at least 70 hours long.
Oh yeah. You should. Everybody should play Personas 1 through 5. Okay.
Oh God.
All right. Anyways, thanks for hanging out,
And
everybody.
watch all of One Piece. You should do
Yeah.
that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. While you're spending time.
Yeah, while you're just wasting away, you should do this too. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up. We'll see you guys at some point soon. We probably won't do it in the next few weeks because my girlfriend's gonna be here, so we're gonna be holding hands and stuff.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.